For those of you that don't know me, just kidding. Just kidding. Welcome to another beautiful night here at the Welcome Center and on our patio. We are so honored tonight to have Leo's mom here. So
That's your only claim to fame.
That's really cool. Lily Iona MacKenzie, and I was fortunate enough to get a book last week and started reading it, and it's been my only away time from the restaurant. I get to go to Mexico with a mom and a daughter, and you have to take a book. It's just absolutely awesome. It's been my getaway for the last about 5 days. So thank you. Lily, born in Edmonton, raised in Calgary, a high school dropout, and a mother at 17 in her early years. Lily supported herself as a stock girl in the Hudson Bay Company, as a long-distance operator for the former Alberta government telephones, and as a secretary. Maybe the book might go there. Maybe. I've been here since 6 this morning. Since 6 this morning. 6 o'clock this morning. So she was a secretary, and the Baytel Corp sponsored her into the States. She's also a cocktail waitress at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco, and briefly broke into the male-dominated world of the docks as a longshoreman, and almost got her legs broken. So stick around after, we'll ask about that. Founded and managed a homeless shelter in Marin County, co-created The Story Shop, a weekly radio program for children that aired on KTIM in Marin County, and eventually earned 2 master's degrees. One in creative writing and one in humanities. She has published reviews, interviews, short fiction, poetry, travel pieces, essays, and a memoir in over 150 American and Canadian venues. Bone Songs, another novel, will be published in 2016. Her poetry collection, All This, was published in 2011. In her spare time, she also teaches writings at the University of San Francisco, is vice president of the USF's part-time faculty union, she blogs, she paints, and she travels widely with her husband. And Leo, you must be so proud. Yay. Warm welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay.
This isn't Lily.
One of the great pleasures of being married for many years is to begin to appreciate and to love the many facets of your wife, listening to those facets. Listening to those facets, appreciate it even more. Maybe the major theme of Lily's life is her almost religious devotion to writing. Lily writes every day, then rewrites, then revises, then writes again, every day. James Joyce, whom I teach, catches this almost biological necessity in a metaphor in Finnegan's Wake. There are twins, many of you know, Shem the penman and Sean. Shem the penman is a penman. He writes, but he secretes words out of his pores. And as the epidermal layer sheds, he secretes more words, and more words, and more words, and he can't stop. Writing for Joyce and for, I think, Lily, is as natural as sweating or sleeping or eating. It's something that's in your body almost, and if you don't act on it, real troubles, I think, ensue. Joyce also wrote that writing is the recreation of life out of life. It's the imaginative transformation of the sights, the sounds, the memories, the important people of your life. But it's not a simple, direct mirroring of your personal experiences. It's imaginatively recreating those experiences so other people can enjoy them and live with them. Out of Lily's rich imagination, she's fashioned a great comic creation in 90-year-old bubbles. And I hope when you read the book a couple of times, and she keeps delighting you. She's unforgettably delightful in her language, and she's constantly lovable in her timeless lust for life. Life begins out of life. A 90-year-old, a 56-year-old, anyone can recreate her life out of life. And where's the recreator of life out of life?
I want to thank everyone for coming on this gorgeous summer night. I can't believe that you would come to a reading. So I appreciate you being here. I'm going to have to get used to how to interact with this mic, but I can see that you're all ready to partake of the Fountain of Youth, and that's what this central character, Bubbles, is about. She really, she is the epitome, I think, of the Fountain of Youth, and it's something that she was seeking for much of her life and found eventually, I think, in Mexico. So I just want to, you're probably wondering, why am I in Christina Lake doing this really it's my book launch tonight, when I live in the San Francisco Bay Area? Why? Want to know why?
Yes.
Well, I have a sister here and her husband. They built a cabin on the lake. How many years ago? Dare we go there? Many years ago. And I used to come up and visit with my former husband and my son. And why do you still have that really dark hair and I don't?
My secret.
That's really mad, baby.
Only my hairdresser knows.
Anyway, when he was about 8 or 10 years old, he had made a promise to himself that this is where he wanted to live someday. And as you can see, he managed to accomplish that. But I have other connections with Christina Lake. How many of you remember Rose Shutek? A couple people.
Well, you guys.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, they used to live next door to where my sister and her husband have their place. I was visiting one summer, and I took a hike on what was then the New Badger Trail. And I went with Rose, I went with my nephew Brian, and the three of us set out. We thought we had a map, but we weren't very good map readers. And there was supposed to be something called the Merry Mountain Loop. Well, we got off the fire road and we never got back on it. So we spent the night up in wherever we were, up there someplace.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, my husband was on the search party.
Oh, right. Isn't that amazing? Amazing.
Didn't know that.
Amazing. Anyway, so we had bears, we had a lot of excitement on that hike, and certainly some very worried parents too of Brian. But we made it back, and here we are, and I'm able to tell this story. But I also, some of you may remember, I wrote a newspaper article about Christina Lake a number of years ago. It was published in the Vancouver Sun, and I used to see it in some of the cafes here. They would have it posted. So I'm not exactly a native Christina Lake woman, but I have some very strong ties here, as you can see. So what I wanted to ask is, I've been teaching writing for a lot of years, and teachers are always asking questions, right? They're always giving quizzes, and so I have to start out this session with a quiz. I'm always asked, or writers are often asked, why do you write? So my question of you is, why do you read? Yes.
To disappear.
That's wonderful.
Turn
Yes,
the mind off. That is my savior, is to read.
That's wonderful.
I turn that brain off. What's going on here?
Yeah. Other reasons that people read. Yes.
went to the library when I was in grade 4 for the first time. And I picked up Tom Sawyer. And I read that. And then I have never stopped to this day. I read a book in 2 days. When I come down on Wednesday to the librarian, I go home lugging all these books. I'm addicted to it.
Any other readers?
Escape.
Entertainment.
Escape, entertainment,
To grow.
just
Comfort.
to grow. Joan Fernelli is my first. She sent me my first fan letter. She read Fling when it was in manuscript form. My other fan is my son, who also read it in manuscript form, and he passed it on to Joan. And I got this wonderful email from her one day explaining how much she enjoyed the book, and went into quite a bit of detail about identifying with Bubbles a little bit. And anyway, it was, you know, writers need some encouragement. It's a dark cave that we enter when we start writing a book. And so to have someone like Joan shed light on the manuscript that you're working on is really, really uplifting. So thank you, Joan. She wouldn't even let me give her a complimentary copy of the book as my first
I insisted
fan.
on paying for it because I wanted to keep it.
No, but you can't keep it. Anyway, you are mentioned, you know, in the acknowledgments page. Yes, you'll have to read that. How many of you are have some kind of Scottish connection? Oh, lots. So for those of you who don't, it's okay. You can still be part of the party. It's all right. So why on earth would I call this book Fling? Where do you think that came from? Fling?
Your Scottish ancestry.
Scottish, a Highland Fling. That's what I mean. Yeah. My mom studied the Highland Fling when she was young, and she would do it in a minute. And I never could believe how like her she could do this, you know. So yes, but it was first called a Highland Fling, and I decided that it was too limiting to call it that, because the book is about more than just a Highland Fling, because these characters, these women, travel from Canada to the States and to Mexico, and they spend a lot of time in Mexico. So it's not just a Scottish book, and it's not just for Scottish readers, but I think that all readers will sort of enjoy the family saga that happens in it. So when I was growing up, I was surrounded by Scottish uncles, a Scottish grandfather, and a Scottish mother. So on my mother's side, I'm Scottish. On my father's side, I'm Greek. But the Scottish roots really took hold. And so I was surrounded day in and day out by Scottish lore. There was such tremendous nostalgia for the old country. Everything was better in the old country. And so I heard a lot of Scottish songs during my childhood. And I'm going to play you one of them that you may be familiar with. How many of you have heard of Sir Harry Lauder?
Lauder?
Sir Harry Lauder,
Oh, yeah.
L-A-U-D-E-R.
Yeah, I
Sir Harry Lauder. He was a music hall singer, very famous in Scotland, and I'm going to give you a little taste of Sir Harry Lauder here. Hang on a second, hold it down. But let me just say, the title of this song is Wee Doc and Doris. And what you need to know is what those words mean, and it means a wee drink, a wee draft at the door. And it's a song that they would sing at the end of an evening. So here we are with Harry Lauder, a wee Doc and Doris.
Yes.
We're going to Mexico.
You can sing along if you know it.
Just a wee drop, that's all. Just a wee drop in chorus before we can know that the wee might be waiting and a wee
You say it's a progress, moonlit net. You're all red. You kidding? So that's Gaelic. A broad-rest moonlit neck to neck. I was so proud of myself when I was a little girl, and I discovered that I could say that. I thought that made me a Scot or something. So a broad-rest moonlit neck tonight. Interpretations. It was hadn't had enough Scotch yet. Anyway, he's describing, it's really it's a bright, lovely moonlight night tonight, but it sounds better in Gaelic. So I'm going to do a few brief excerpts from the book. I'm not going to spend a lot of time reading, but let me just explain how I started, why I wrote Fling. As I've already told you, my mother's side of the family came from Scotland, and I had a grandmother, her mother, that I had never met. And the story was that, well, it's not a story, this is what happened. When my grandfather, who was a schoolmaster, decided to go to Canada to improve his lot in life, he left behind the wife and the children until he got settled. But in the meantime, World War I happened. And so the rest of the family wasn't able to join him for 7 years. So when my grandmother and the other children finally reached Calgary, Canada, very cold Calgary, Canada, after living in misty Portree à la sky, it was very difficult adjustment for her, apparently. And there also seems to be some indication that my grandfather didn't treat her too well. And so I'm sort of amazed, this would have been the 1920s, mid-1920s, and she wasn't going to take it. So she left him, she left the kids, and we can all say, what an awful thing to do, and in some respects it really was. If you look at on the other side, if any of you have read or seen the play Ibsen's The Dollhouse, you also know the other side of that it can also be a positive thing, maybe for the woman too. So maybe she was an early feminist, I don't know, but she certainly fascinated me because not only did she leave the family, but she went to live in Mount Royal, which is at least it used to be a very upscale area in Calgary. And she and her employer took off for Mexico City. And at least she never returned. And she died there. We don't know exactly what she died from. We don't know exactly what she did, but what a story, right? And so a lot of my writing starts with the question, what if? Or it always starts with questions, with me wondering what a world might be like that I'm not familiar with, what this person's life might be like, what might have motivated these people to act as they did. And so that's where it started. So even though the two main characters are Feather is 57 years old in the story. She's the daughter of Bubbles, who is 90 years old in the story. So even though they're the main characters initially, it's really this grandmother. I mean, I had to fill in around the grandmother, but she's really the heart of the book. And this search for, who she was, what she might have done. So it's all invention, and I'll never know exactly what happened, but I now have a grandmother in Fling that I didn't have before, at least. So when Feather, the daughter, she lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's an artist, a visual artist, a sculptor, and a painter. And she has decided to spend the summer in Mexico. She didn't plan on taking her mother with her. This wasn't, she was a dutiful daughter. She took care of her mother, but as you'll see if you read the book, it wasn't always a wonderful arrangement or relationship. But she got a phone call from her mother saying, I got a letter from the dead letter office in Mexico City. My mother's ashes are there, and I'll just give you the letter she got from the dead letter office. If you give me a second to put glasses on, because I share the age thing. So Feather has arrived at her mother's apartment, and she flops under the love seat, sending up a cloud of dust, and reads the letter aloud. Dear Madam, their big box dead letter office address you name. Come get box. Mrs. Heather McDonald, ashes. None found box and note for family. Have box many years. No send ashes by mail for health reasons. When you pick up. And so Feather says, Granny's ashes? She popped off years ago. Bubbles paces. The bunny ears on her slippers flopping back and forth, almost tripping her. She says, you've got to take me to Mexico City. It'll be like old times, traveling together. Okay, so did I already mention that Feather has gone for her mother's 90th birthday to Calgary? That's why she's there. And so they celebrate the 90th birthday. Bubbles manages to convince Feather that she has to go to Mexico City to get these ashes. Feather says, wait a minute, I had an R&R vacation set for Puerto Vallarta. I want to spend a week there. Then I want to go to San Miguel de Allende so I can study art at the Institute. There's a wonderful institute there. You're going to have to do all of this with me too. So they agreed, and so they set off, and their first stop was Puerto Vallarta. So I'm going to take a sip of water. In spite of circular water. So then, this is in Puerto Vallarta, and they were staying in this lovely penthouse apartment right on the beach, overlooking Bandera Bay. Anybody been to Puerto Vallarta? Anybody been there? Two of you, yeah. And so. That night, an orange-colored crescent moon hangs suspended in the sky as if from a string. Feather and Bubbles are sitting on the balcony, sipping piña coladas. The pelicans glide past in formation. Bubbles reaches out a free hand, trying to touch them, but they continue on course and dive into the sea. The women shift their gaze to the horizon, its line broken occasionally by ghostly ships passing by. The image reminds Feather that she's in Mexico, the land where the dead live on. Like the Scots, many Mexicans assume there is more to reality than what can be discerned through their limited vision. Magic and reality coexist. The Day of the Dead is a major national celebration. Memories of an early Halloween fill her with nostalgia. She asks her mother, do you recall that Halloween I dressed as a bumblebee? Bubbles says, you always had odd taste in clothes. together. I wanted to go out trick-or-treating, but you made me wait till we tried the Ouija board. She mimics her mother's